Hey, how y'all doing? I'm doing all right. It's a gray, rainy day here today. Kind of mutes the world, you know. Kind of makes me in a remembering kind of mood, thinking about things. One of the things I was thinking about was an old friend of mine that I had. We probably met in, I'll say 1973, and we were friends for about 20 years. And we'd talk about things back then all the time, you know. He was of the same mind as me in many ways. We'd ride around drinking, smoking, tripping. Hey, it was a long time ago, so I'm sure the statute of limitations has run out on anything we might have done back then, all right? But the things that we talked about a lot were the same things that get talked about now. You know, the Illuminati and the Bilderbergers and the federal government taking over and doing away with monetary systems. And that was all being talked about even back then, you know, of course. As time went by, we geographically moved apart. You know, I lived in Louisiana and he lived in Georgia. I remember one time I went over to visit him, and in his trailer house he had lots of weapons. Everything from samurai swords to automatic weapons. Some really high-buck, high-tech stuff for the time, you know. And I asked him, what are you going to do with this stuff? I mean, what's the purpose? You've invested a lot of money in it. And he said, well, if the federal government comes after me, it's going to be a firefight. They're not going to take me alive. I said, well, that's a fact, because if you shoot at a federal agent, you're dead. And if you make it to the news, you're the bad guy. It don't matter what caused the firefight, you're the bad guy, you know? I mean, I spent my time in the military, and I know that if you come up against them, you lose. Well, we corresponded all the time, you know, telephone calls. He'd write me these ridiculously long letters, you know, 14, 15 pages, 20 pages. I enjoyed getting them. And then one day I got a letter from him, probably around 1990, 91. And it said, this is the last letter you'll get from me. I'm changing my name, and I'm going underground. And that's what he did. And I've never heard from him since. Well, I hope he's still alive. Who knows? But when I think about that, I think about what is freedom? What did we think was freedom in 1973, you know, when we first met? I don't know if I can remember. I do remember a conversation one day. I remember it clear. And the topic was, the only thing that we could do, really, was to remember what freedom meant to us right then. Remember it into the future. Almost like a time traveler, you know. Knowing that we were going to go into the future, but try to remember what we had at that moment. And so that no matter what kind of propaganda or brainwashing or anything like that that the federal government could throw at us, we would always know what it meant to be a free man walking the world. I don't know if I was able to do that or not. That's the nature of brainwashing and propaganda, isn't it? I don't know. I think I do, but then I would think that, wouldn't I? The only thing I know is true freedom, my freedom, is here. I carry it around with me. Nobody can take it away from me. The land of freedom in which I live is between my ears. I don't care what country I live in. I'm free. If it turns out that a lot of people are right and that the federal government is going to take over and they're going to send the stormtroopers to my door, and they say, well, guess what? You were wrong. There are FEMA camps, and you're going to one. I don't think so. Because I'm a free man. So, maybe that's the day I die. Maybe that's what my buddy meant. Maybe he was right. I know for sure that I don't care what political party's in power or who's running the show or if it's a shadow government or space aliens running it. It doesn't matter to me. I don't live in fear. I try every day to remind myself, what have I got to fear? Death? Nobody gets out of this show alive. You know that, right? The only thing that you have is how you live your life. That's all you got. We'll all be dead, so what? We can't be destroyed, right? The molecules and the atoms that make up my body, they were once in a star somewhere, and that star died. That star exploded and ejected all that material into space, and it rode the cosmic winds. And one day, it started accreting into a planet. And then the planet was formed, and then there was no life at all at first, and then there was life. And then it just moved on through, and you see, I'm here talking to you right now. And at some point in the future, this planet's going to explode. And all the matter that's on it, including whatever's left of me, will be ejected into space and ride the cosmic winds, and then it'll accrete into a planet, and then life will form, and there'll all be some three-eyed, two-toed thing walking around on a planet somewhere. And I hope when I do that I'm one free-thinking, three-eyed, two-toed thing, that I'm walking around that planet free and not living in fear, because that's all you got today. Today's all you got. And today, I'll promise you, brother, I'm free.